There's a possibility I may have cut my thumb there, being an idiot, so we'll see if any blood shows at any point. Then we know clearly I should pay attention to the knife. It's the fact that with ball bearings you get a very smooth drop shot action, very smooth deployment. I don't know why that's a challenge on the heist, right? Like, that's not happening. Hello and what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Miguel and you're watching Miguel EDC, the channel where we talk everything EDC gear here. Today I have an awesome video for you all. That's right, we're going to be reviewing a knife that we recently unboxed in the channel, and that is the Kershaw Iridium. Just kidding. And that is the Kershaw Heist, right? This guy right here. I've had a chance to EDC this guy for quite some time, about 2 weeks, if not more. And I gotta tell you guys, it's definitely been quite the journey. There's been quite the breaking in period for this guy, and I have quite a little bit of feedback to share with you all. So if you guys are ready for that, go ahead and smash that like button so that this video can be pushed to a larger audience and grow the channel. More and more knife folks like you can check out content like this for free. And if you like knife content like this on a daily basis, please do consider subscribing. Keep in mind there are affiliate links for all of these knives that you'll see in this video, this knife right here, and of course every other knife that you'll see in the video today. There's a possibility I may have cut my thumb there, being an idiot, so we'll see if any blood shows at any point. Then we know clearly I should pay attention to the knife instead of the viewfinder, right? But yeah, that being said, let's start things off here with a quick size measurement here. Overall length measurement on this guy is coming in at around, I want to say 7 3/4, maybe a little bit around 7.6, 7.65. All right, that's your overall length. As far as your cutting edge, you're gonna have around 3 and a little bit over, let's see, 3.5 cutting edge. Overall blade is going to be 3 1/4, and total handle right there is going to be 4.5 right there on the handle. All right, what do we have going on with this guy? We have a D2 steel stone washed spear point, drop point or spear point type of blade going on. This is an in-house design from Kershaw. That's what that little logo right there means. It is made in China, just in case, to clear out any lingering doubts out there. Kershaw knife, this is one of their very more recent newer designs as of 2023. This knife came out earlier in 2023 in January, and they were showcasing their crossbar line of crossbar knives, this one being one of them. They call their crossbar knives, they call this system for Kershaw, they call it the DuraLock. And you also saw this, as a matter of fact, in a similar knife which also came out at the same time, and that is the Kershaw Iridium. Also has the same DuraLock. Main difference being this guy is in ball bearings, so very, very smooth action with this guy. And the Heist, on the other hand, is on washers. We're gonna get into that because yes, that makes a huge difference. As far as handle, we have FRN going on all throughout. The FRN does have this little like spiky little design going on, which gives you additional grip, which is good. You can feel that in your hand as you're gripping, bearing down on the knife right there. That's what you have. You have recessed liners all throughout, which is very, very good. They are exposed maybe a little bit right here and maybe a little bit right there with some jimping, but they are pretty recessed for the most part. And that is the knife, right? As far as what you have, deep pocket carry clip that is reversible. I am not sure why it is on this side. It should definitely be on this side, but I was doing a video where I was trying out different pocket clips on the Civivi Vision FG, and I think when I took out the pocket clip, then I put it wrong. I put it on the wrong side, so that might have been why. Check out that video if you haven't already. But that being said, let's do some size comparisons on this guy. Let's see how it stacks up to the usual suspects. We have the PM2, Spyderco PM2, so it's definitely going to be a little bit shorter than the PM2. How does it compare to the Para 3? It's actually probably closer to the Para 3 than it is to the PM2, right? That's something to keep in mind there. Let's check out the Demco 80-20.5 on the Shark's Foot variant, right? Very comparable there indeed. Let's also check out the Rat Model 1, which is a much larger knife indeed, and you could clearly see that it is definitely, yep, much bigger. And maybe last but not least, let's throw in the sibling here to the Rat Model 1, which is the Rat Model 2, and the Kershaw Heist is going to be somewhere in between there, closer to the smaller brother, I feel like, than the bigger one. And maybe just for some even comparisons, here is the sibling to the Kershaw Iridium. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it is a larger knife overall. And since you already saw it, why not? Here is the Civivi Vision FG, right? So that should give you a quick size comparison there. It is certainly a little bit shorter of an overall knife compared to most of the other knives that I've just shown you, right? That typically gives you a ballpark idea how it lines up next to some of those other popular models. All right, let's do carry profile. Let's do thickness here against the PM2 or Para 3 for that matter. The, PM2 or Para 3 are going to be a little bit thicker there, right? The Demko on the gravity scale here going to be very comparable, with the Heist being maybe a little bit thicker, if anything. You guys be the judge right there if I can keep it straight. And let's see, the Rat Model 1. Rat Model 1 is indeed going to be thicker indeed. And the Rat Model 2. Just for some quick thickness here comparisons. How about length and height in the pocket, right? Length and height in the pocket. Here's the Rat Model 2. Here's the Rat Model 1. And maybe I'll flip it for a little bit of consistency. And as you can see, this guy, the blade actually sticks out quite a bit out of the handle. So it might be actually closer to the Rat Model 1 as compared to the Rat Model 2. The Rat Model 2 is definitely slimmer indeed. Let's of course check the PM2 and Para 3. These obviously are going to be, right, much taller, wider knives as a whole because of the Spidey hole there. And lastly, the Demko 80-20.5s, regardless of blade shape, they are going to be also just a little bit taller there, right, length and height. Length probably around the same, with the Heist being a little bit shorter in length when folded. And definitely height, the Demkos there are still going to be a little bit taller, I feel like. Yes, just a little bit. All right, so let's talk action. Let's talk action on this guy. So, as I mentioned earlier, right, this guy is on washers, right? So no ball bearings here. And again, for comparisons, I always have to say this. I'm gonna bring the Iridium here in frame. This guy is in ball bearings. So if you took anything away from the review or the unboxing on the Iridium, is the fact that with ball bearings, you get a very smooth drop shot action, very smooth deployment, right? You could even do it like that with the crossbar lock or the DuraLock. That's what's going on the Iridium. Whereas on the Kershaw Heist, because it is on washers, the action is a little bit different, quite a bit different if I'm being honest. So yes, you can thumb deploy, right? You could reverse flick, but the return, right, is where there was definitely a break-in period. Even after about over 2 weeks, probably closer to 3 weeks now, of opening and closing this knife and carrying it as a primary or even as a secondary, you could see there's even a lot more breaking in still left to go. So yeah, you can actually close it shot. You definitely have to give it quite a swing of the wrist there in order for that to happen. You could thumb deploy it all day and you can reverse flick too. But for whatever reason, right, this action right here, being able to deploy it just with the wrist action like I can on the Iridium, I don't know why that's a challenge on the Heist, right? Like that's not happening. That is not happening. So again, as mentioned earlier, right, the action here on the DuraLock, right, is very similar. You can see here I can do it on both. So that's not the issue. But again, it's the fact that this one, the Heist, is on washers. That's gonna affect your deployment experience. Your mileage may vary a little bit. So that is something to keep in mind. Again, obviously I purchased this knife with my own money. This is my own experience. I'm sharing with you exactly what things to look out for, you know, what things are great, what things may not be so great, and everything else in between. So other than that, right, if you are a fan of washers over ball bearings because you know maybe they are easier to maintain, you know, over time, because you know that they are probably gonna, you know, have less buildup of pocket flint or debris or whatever the case may be, then yeah, this might be a very good choice for you. And if you don't need that ball bearing, you know, drop shotty action, then as soon as you break in this guy, I feel like you can get work done. And it will be very similar to, let's say, like a Spyderco, right? Let's say the Mannix 2, which is the one that I am EDCing right now. This guy is not on ball bearings. This guy is on washers. But, you know, once you break in the knife, you are good to go. At least I can actually deploy this guy with the, you know, ball bearing lock. but I still can deploy this guy with a crossbar lock alone. That's my biggest issue right there. So it's very, very sketchy. It doesn't happen very easily. So that's something to look out for. But aside from that, the DuraLock as a system overall, it is a very, very strong system. Even though I tested out losing the pivot a little bit, playing around, adjusting it, you know, tying it, losing it back and forth until I found a good spot for it to work for me. Yeah, it's still going to be very robust, very reliable. There's no play here, up and down, side to side. And you could loosen it a little bit more if you wanted to and risk a little bit of play if you wanted a smoother action, I guess. But again, you know, I didn't even have to do all that with the Iridium because the action was such a night and day difference. So now that we have addressed the elephant in the room, right, I definitely wanted to make sure I talked about that during the review, right? You have a very nice, a very ergonomic knife indeed. This guy was very, very sharp out of the box, and I definitely had a really good time. I cut tons and tons of boxes with it. Not sure if you guys can see on the blade there, the fact that there's still a lot of gunk left or what have you. I didn't even bother cleaning it. That stone wash finish on it, like, it really hides away anything on the blade for the most part. And this drop point blade shape like this, yeah, this was really, really good, and I definitely put in a lot of work with this guy. So let's do a quick hardware check on this guy since we're here. As always, my tools are very recommendable. You can find them in the description. Those affiliate links to help out the channel at no extra cost to you. And I want to say this guy's going to be mainly T6 and possibly T8 in the pivot, so which is pretty common on this budget category of knives. So T8 on the pivot there, and it looks like T6 all around. All right, so that's what you have going on there, even on the pocket clip, right? Blade stock thickness on this bad boy, let's take a look here. As far as the blade stock, we have in the deepest section is going to be a 0.09 inches. All right, so that's very thin already, very thin geometry. It drops to like a 0.03 of an inch right here on the lowest portion of the grind or bevel right before the edge. So it is a flat grind up until this halfway section right here, and there's somewhat of a relief cut out right here at the top, which is also very helpful when making cuts, of course. There's no jimping on the blade here, but there is jimping on the actual handle, which is actually part of the liners, so you can definitely grab really, really good. It is I want to say medium to small knife. Notice how I have medium hands, medium to large hands, and there's not really a lot of handle still left here when I am bearing down on this guy completely 100%. So that's something to keep in mind. There is no forward choke option, so that's something to be very, very careful with. Doesn't have a finger choil per se. So if you were to do this, you want to be very, very careful, right? Know exactly where your finger is at all times and be very, very aware, very mindful. Otherwise, just keep your index finger back here and you should be okay, out of harm's way. Is there any milling going on this guy? Well, the FRN is already pretty light as it is, and the only milling that I see is going to be right over here where the omega springs are located, which is pretty common for a crossbar style type of knife. So other than that, I don't see any other milling going on. So let's get a quick weight on this guy here, shall we? And let's see. All right, it's going to be a total of 2.8 ounces. 2.8 ounces as compared to the Iridium, right, was 3.3. So you get a little bit more weight on the Iridium. Again, you have aluminum handles on this guy versus FRN, and a total of 2.8 ounces on the weight there. So on this guy, you do get a crossbar lock, right? So that's something that's very, very important, because with any crossbar lock, you have a knife that is very, very ambidextrous friendly. So this knife works really, really good for both righties and lefties. I am not the most lefty friendly person, but I want to say if my left hand was better trained and this wasn't on washers, right? Just know that, of course, it's, you know, the same thumb and index finger sort of pinch. That's the same action that you're going to be doing, right, with either hand. So very, very ambidextrous friendly. And of course, the pocket clip can be reversed to either right or left side. Deep pocket carried, as mentioned earlier, and pretty aligned. I want to say I did mess with it a little bit, trying to play around with the pivot, you know, whether I wanted it tighter or a little bit more on the loose end, but it's still pretty aligned. You guys be the judge right there for this guy. This guy is on D2, which I don't know why, but a lot of people wish that it was a different material. I would say, if anything, I wouldn't pick on the D2. I would say, you know, this scales on aluminum would have also been really, really nice instead of FRN. I would have been interesting. I would have wanted to have seen this guy, you know, since the Iridium has a very smooth aluminum going on, why not have the Heist be the rugged aluminum instead? But like I mentioned earlier, aluminum is a little bit, I guess, underused this day and age, so you should definitely use that a little bit more on knives, in my opinion. But it is a budget knife. This one comes in at a more affordable price than the Heist, without a shadow of a doubt. So that is certainly something that helps it be very, very affordable. And at this price point, right, a D2 is a pretty decent steal, right? It wasn't that long ago where knives like the Elementum and so many other very popular $50 knives, right, they all came with D2 from the factory, and everybody was considering that to be a decent steal. But these days, folks want to see things like Nitro V, and they want to see steals like 14C28N. But I feel like D2 for this price is still not bad. It's definitely something for you to consider. And as far as the action, again, right, very comfortable knife, very good knife to use. The only other side that I could think of on this guy, the same thing that I mentioned with the Iridium review, is the fact that you have to think about Omega springs. Now, me personally, I haven't ever had an Omega spring break on me, and I've had quite a few number of different other crossbar style type of knives. I did have a viewer who had issues with his Omega springs break on his Iridium. He got really upset, almost threw the knife out the window. But me personally, I haven't had any issues. I've had them for about, I want to say, maybe a month. I've had both knives for maybe over a month, and I definitely EDC them quite a ton here during that time period. So I want to say maybe after longer use, I feel like any knife, you know, long term, right, if it's a crossbar, definitely Omega springs is something to look out for. Where you're not going to run into an issue with a crossbar knife is if you have a system like the one on the Man X2, right? This is a ball bearing lock, so there's definitely no Omega springs here. Or maybe something like the Microtech MSI with the ram lock, right? There's definitely no Omega springs, but a coil spring instead. That's what's going on with these guys. Both of these have a coil spring instead of a Omega spring. So maybe that's, you know, again, a little bit too much to ask. Obviously, those two knives are a lot more, you know, a higher price bracket than this guy for sure. This is more in the budget category, around the $50 or so. But yeah, that's probably the only thing. It's a little bit of a tricky disassembly whenever you're taking apart a knife with Omega springs, but other than that, I feel like you're really not going to do that every day, so that shouldn't be a deterring factor for you at all. So I also noticed if you are if you are also a tip down carry type of person, there's no you know, because of the nature of the knife, I guess, with the crossbar right here at the top, there's no cutouts or anything for the pocket clip to be tip down, so that's something to consider there. So this wouldn't be a tip down type of knife. If you are into that, there's a very big, quite a large opening window, I would say. That's not even a hole for a lanyard, that's a window. And yeah, it takes place over both scales. They actually form the hole. If you're into that, and if you're into lanyard holes, then you got quite a big one right here. Of course, this is a quick paper cutting test as usual, right? Again, this guy has seen some use already. So let's see how sharp it has, what a sharp edge it has retained. As you can see, it's still cutting pretty decently there. And if I make some longer slices, yeah, that is one thing. You can complain about D2 all you want, but these are going to be some sharp knives out of the box, and they are going to retain how sharp they are, right? This guy, again, after so many cardboard boxes, it is still putting in the work. It's still going to cut. And it's going to be a very easy, fairly easy steel to sharpen later on too. It's not going to be 100% corrosion resistant, but you know, for the budget steel that it is, right, pretty easy, reasonable to sharpen when the time comes. What about some cardboard? Well, it can do that too. It can certainly do cardboard without a doubt. So let's cut some cardboard here. Remember, when cutting cardboard, don't cut perpendicular like this, but rather at an angle like that. And bam, look at that, guys. Like, cut cardboard like it's nobody's business. You guys see the judge right there. So price on this guy, again, around, I want to say $45 to $50. That is the actually a pretty good price, puts it pretty close to a lot of competition around this price range. I can think of a couple of other knives that I would also recommend here, but if you're looking to check out the crossbar lock from Kershaw, right? There's really two questions that you want to ask yourself. The very first question that you want to ask yourself is, are you more of a washers in the pivot type of person, or are you more of a ball bearings in the pivot type of person? If you're okay with washers and this action right here seems appealing to you, then yes, I would definitely recommend the Kershaw Heist. Again, that's a tool. This guy's gonna put in work and cut, right? So we're being very, very nitpicky here and saying, okay, well, what about the action as a whole? Because we know the cutting performance is there, and we know this thing will perform and it will cut, right? But yes, if you are okay with the washers, right, you're gonna be okay with this guy. If you want a little bit more smoother performance, go ball bearings, and that you're definitely gonna go the Iridium route, okay? The Iridium is a little bit more money. It's also a little bit larger. The second question you need to ask yourself is, do I want FRN? If you're okay with FRN, especially with this little design right here, which is also very, very grippy, then you're gonna be okay with the Heist. That won't be a problem. If you don't want FRN and you want something a little bit more premium, a little bit more substantial there than FRN, then check out the Iridium, right? The Iridium has aluminum handles. It's a little bit more premium, a little bit more elegant. And because it is a slightly larger knife, has a larger handle, it has a larger overall length, it's also going to be a little bit more comfortable in the hand, in my opinion. That's something to consider, right, as well, right? Not only the pivot, whether you want washers or ball bearings, but also FRN versus aluminum. Now, the truth is, I'd highly recommend both. They're both going to perform as tools. They're certainly going to get the job done. And there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that once you narrow it down to which one you actually want, then you're going to be happy with your choice. So as far as cutting performance, again, even though they have a different blade shape slightly, right? Drop point, spear point on the Iridium, drop point on the Heist, a satin finish on the Iridium versus a stonewash on the Heist. That's something else to consider as well. Again, it's going to be up to you, right? What are your preferences? What are your overall choices? But yes, absolutely recommend it. This knife is going to perform. And you know, we have to give Kershaw a lot of credit here, right? They rolled out some bangers earlier this year. It tells you that they are looking to bring knives to the budget category. They are really trying their best to compete in this market as far as crossbars lock, because there's so many companies coming out with their own version of crossbar locks right now, and it's just so good to see that Kershaw is wanting to throw their hat in the ring. They're trying to also get their versions in there, and they came out with two really good choices, right? So it is for you to choose as far as which one you want to at the end of the day, but you know, you definitely got some solid choices there to consider at the end of the day there from Kershaw, and you will not go wrong with either one, as long as of course you choose the one that you truly want for you. Well, there you have it, guys. There is the review. Let me know if I missed anything, right? Let me know if there's anything specific that you want to see about the Kershaw Heist in particular. Let me know in the comments. Let's hang out down there. And if you made it to this point in the video, guys, you are the real MVP. Smash that like button if you haven't already, and subscribe, because there's certainly all kinds of videos like these happening on a daily basis. Check out the description for the affiliate links for all the products, all the knives that you saw in this video. Those links help out the channel at no extra cost to you. And lastly, if you want to take your support a step further, please check out the Patreon link down below. You can support the channel for as little as $1 a month. Thank you guys again. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.